What if I told you that the greatest sermon ever told still has the power to change your life today? Can you imagine a message so powerful it's been quoted for centuries and still resonates in our hearts? Blessed are the meek, you are the salt of the earth, love your enemies. These words, they came from one sermon, a sermon that isn't just history, it's a revolution that Jesus began on the mountainside that day. But here's the real question. Are you ready to hear the truth that can radically change the way you live, the way you love, and the way you see the world? Welcome to God's Word to Me. In this video, we're not just talking about a sermon. We're exploring the blueprint for a life of purpose, a life that stands firm in the midst of today's chaos. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear could change everything. Ready to dig deeper? Let's dive in together. The Beatitudes, a new kind of blessed life. Imagine standing on a hillside, the air fresh with anticipation. The crowd is restless, awaiting a message that would change everything they thought they knew about blessings. And then Jesus speaks, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Wait, blessed, poor in spirit? That doesn't make sense, does it? In a world where we've been taught that success, self-sufficiency, and power are the ultimate goals, where we're encouraged to stand tall, build our own empires, and rely on no one but ourselves, Jesus is flipping the script. True blessing, he says, doesn't come from power. It comes from humility. The poor in spirit are not those who are weak, but those who recognize their utter dependence on God. It's not about thinking less of yourself, but about realizing that without God, we are nothing. Isn't it fascinating? In a world driven by self-made billionaires, political powerhouses, and social media influencers, we hear Jesus telling us that the key to true strength lies in surrender, not self-sufficiency. Can you relate? Have you ever felt like the weight of the world was too much to bear, and just when you thought you were about to break, you felt that quiet but unmistakable presence of God drawing near, offering you a strength you didn't know you had? Maybe you lost a job, experienced a painful breakup, or faced a financial crisis that shook your very foundation. It's in these raw, humbling moments that God's strength shines through. Just as Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven isn't some distant future. It breaks through right in those moments of weakness. Think about this. What if the true key to power isn't gaining more control over life, but acknowledging that you don't have it all figured out? Isn't there something powerful in knowing that the God who created the universe also cares deeply for your heart? Just as the powerful leaders of the world, from figures like Oprah Winfrey to world-changing icons like Nelson Mandela, had their moments of vulnerability, so too can we find God's strength in our weakest moments. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt completely out of control, yet somehow, through faith, found a way to rise above? Or perhaps, are you someone who feels like the pursuit of success has left you more empty than fulfilled? If so, Jesus' words might be the answer you've been seeking. Take a moment and think. What would it look like if you allowed yourself to surrender, to admit that your strength comes not from your own achievements, but from God's presence in your life? The key to true blessing, true peace, lies in acknowledging our need for Him. Lesson. In a world that tells us to depend only on ourselves, Jesus offers us a different path. True blessings come not from worldly success, but from recognizing our need for God. When we embrace this, we unlock a strength that transcends anything we can achieve on our own. So here's my challenge for you today. How can you surrender just a little bit more of your life to God this week? Can you find the courage to embrace the poverty of spirit that Jesus speaks about, and in doing so discover a new kind of blessing? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Salt and light shining in a dark world. Imagine standing amidst a crowd, a sea of faces, many searching for something, anything, that would give meaning to their lives. And then Jesus speaks with clarity and power. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. These words are not just a suggestion. No, Jesus is declaring our identity, our purpose. He isn't telling us to become salt and light. He's telling us we already are. Have you ever wondered what it means to truly make a difference in this world? What if the difference doesn't come from being loud, rich, or powerful? What if it comes from being distinct, from embodying the essence of salt and light in a world that desperately needs it. Think about salt for a moment. Salt is small, often overlooked, yet it preserves what is good. It enhances flavor. In ancient times, salt was so valuable that it was even used as currency. Imagine that. Something as simple as salt could hold so much power. Jesus calls us to be that preserving force in the world. Those who stand for truth, who uphold what is good in the face of decay. Salt doesn't call attention to itself, but its impact is undeniable. Does your life preserve what is good in your community, in your relationships, or even at work? Now let's think about light. Light doesn't hide in darkness. It illuminates. It shows the way. Have you ever walked through a pitch-black room, feeling completely lost, only to see the light of a single candle guiding you forward? That's the power of light, and that's the role Jesus has given to us. In a world often filled with confusion, darkness, and moral uncertainty, Jesus is asking us, his followers, to shine. But here's the real question. Are you hiding your light, or are you allowing it to shine boldly for others to see? How often do you hold back your true convictions, your beliefs, your faith out of fear of judgment or rejection? Jesus calls us to stand out, to be distinct, to illuminate the path to truth. Take, for example, someone like Malala Yousafzai, who despite facing unimaginable challenges, shone brightly as a beacon of hope for girls' education worldwide. Or think of someone like Oprah Winfrey, whose journey from adversity to success has inspired millions, reminding us that it is our inner light that carries us through even the darkest times. These individuals didn't just achieve success, they influenced the world by shining their light boldly, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable it was. Now think about the people around you. Who is living out their faith in a way that makes you take notice? Maybe it's someone at work who stands firm in their convictions, even when it's unpopular. Perhaps it's someone in your life who consistently shows kindness and compassion, no matter the situation. They are the salt and light, and their influence is undeniable. Are you ready to be that person? Lesson: don't hide your light. The world needs your light now more than ever. It's time to step into your true identity and make a difference in a world that desperately needs it. Will you let your light shine boldly today? Will you be the salt that preserves goodness in a decaying world? Let's talk about it in the comments. What does it look like for you to be salt and light in your everyday life? Remember, salt doesn't stay hidden in the salt shaker. Light doesn't stay hidden under a bowl. Let your faith be seen. Let your actions reflect the love and truth of Jesus. Shine brightly and be a beacon in a world searching for hope, a righteousness beyond the law. You have heard that it was said, "You shall not murder." But I tell you, these words spoken by Jesus carry a profound weight that goes far beyond any legal commandment. He is inviting us into a deeper understanding of righteousness, one that doesn't merely focus on outward actions, but on the very heart of the issue. You see, righteousness isn't just about checking boxes, following rules, or staying within the lines. It's about heart transformation. Think about it for a moment. How often have we focused solely on what others can see, yet ignored the inner thoughts and emotions that shape our actions? Jesus challenges us to look inward. Why? Because true righteousness doesn't just come from outward compliance, it begins in the heart. Take, for example, the commandment, "You shall not murder." We all know that murder is wrong, but Jesus raises the stakes. He says that even anger in your heart towards someone can lead to judgment. Think about that. Anger, that deep-seated feeling of injustice, frustration, or resentment we often carry, can poison our hearts even if we never act on it. Pause and reflect. Have you ever felt justified in your anger or resentment? Perhaps you've been hurt deeply by a friend, a family member, or even a stranger. And yet, holding on to that anger feels almost natural, doesn't it? It feels right. You may tell yourself, "I have every right to be angry." But is that the path Jesus calls us to walk? Jesus calls us to peacemakers, to those who are willing to reconcile, even when it's difficult, even when the other person hasn't apologized. Jesus isn't merely concerned with outward behavior. He wants to address the root causes of sin: anger, hatred, jealousy, unforgiveness, they all start in the heart. And if we ignore them, they will fester and grow, influencing our actions, our relationships, and even our relationship with God. Let me ask you, have you ever held on to a grudge or anger, telling yourself it was justified? How did that make you feel inside? Did it bring peace? Or did it weigh on your soul, creating a barrier between you and God's peace? Consider the lives of some of the most powerful figures today, like Nelson Mandela, who spent years in prison, enduring oppression and hate. Yet after his release, he chose to forgive, not because it was easy, but because it was the path that led to peace. Mandela's story is one of reconciliation, choosing love over bitterness, understanding over anger. What about you? Are you holding on to bitterness, or are you choosing forgiveness? What would your life look like if you followed Jesus' call to reconcile with those you've been angry with, to extend forgiveness to those who may not even deserve it? The lesson is clear. True righteousness is not simply about following the letter of the law. It's about allowing God to transform our hearts, to purify our thoughts, and to help us see others the way He does, through eyes of grace and love. Jesus' call is a radical one. It's not enough to simply avoid the big sins. We are called to examine our hearts, our motivations, our emotions, our reactions, and allow God to transform them. This is the righteousness that goes beyond the surface. This is the righteousness that reflects God's heart. So here's the challenge for you. Is there someone you need to forgive? Someone you need to reconcile with? A bitterness you need to release? Take a moment to reflect on that and leave a comment below. Let's talk about it. How can we start taking steps toward a heart of peace, even when it's hard? Remember, the journey to true righteousness doesn't end with following rules. It begins with a heart that is surrendered to God's transformative power. Will you allow God to purify your heart today? Let's walk this path together. The Golden Rule in True Discernment. One of the most powerful and well-known teachings in the Sermon on the Mount is what we often call the Golden Rule. Do to others what you would have them do to you. It sounds simple, doesn't it? But in its simplicity, there's a depth that has the power to transform the way we live our lives, if we really take it to heart. Think about it for a moment. How would you want to be treated? Not just by your family or close friends, but by strangers, by people who don't know you or care about you. Wouldn't you want to be shown kindness, compassion, and respect? Wouldn't you want people to offer you grace even when you don't deserve it? Jesus asks us to do that, without exception. To treat others the way we wish to be treated is not just a moral suggestion. It's a command to live a life that reflects empathy, kindness, and integrity in every relationship, every interaction, every moment. What would our world look like if we all truly followed this simple rule? But then, just when we think the path is clear, Jesus gives us another crucial warning: false prophets. He speaks of those who appear righteous, but beneath the surface, they are wolves in sheep's clothing. Think about that for a second. Wolves in sheep's clothing. In today's world, that might sound like someone who looks good on the outside, but has hidden motives. A leader, a public figure, a social influencer, even within our churches or communities, who seems to be preaching the truth, but whose life doesn't reflect it. How can we discern what's real? How can we know who is truly leading us toward truth and who is leading us astray? Let me ask you this. How do you discern truth in the world today? We live in an era where voices, whether through social media, the news, or even the people we encounter daily, are constantly vying for our attention. With so many different messages bombarding us, it can be difficult to know who to trust. How often have you felt confused by all the competing voices around you? Here's the key. Jesus tells us to look at the fruit. The lives of those we follow, whether they are political leaders, spiritual mentors, or even celebrities, should reflect the fruit of the Spirit. Do their actions line up with the teachings of Jesus? Do they display love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control? Or do they seek their own glory, their own fame, their own power? Think of someone like Oprah Winfrey, who has built a platform of compassion, kindness, and empowerment for millions of people. She may not be perfect, but her life reflects many of the values Jesus spoke about: kindness, selflessness, and a genuine desire to help others. In contrast, look at public figures who have used their platforms for selfish gain, or leaders whose actions are inconsistent with their words. Where are they leading us? Ask yourself, does the fruit of the lives you follow lead you closer to God or to something else? What about your own life? When people look at you, what fruit do they see? Does your life reflect the teachings of Jesus, or are there areas where you're more concerned with appearances than authenticity? Here's the challenge for you. In a world full of counterfeits, we must use discernment. We must learn to look beyond appearances and pay attention to the fruit, whether it's in our leaders, our peers, or even ourselves. Are we walking in the truth? Are we following those who truly point us to Jesus, or are we being led astray by the false prophets of our time? Take a moment and reflect. What does true discernment look like in your life? How can you make sure the voices you follow are rooted in God's truth and not in the deceitful allure of the world? Let's not just hear the words of Jesus, but live them. Let's be people who treat others with the love and respect we desire, and who use discernment to avoid being deceived by false prophets. The world desperately needs the light of truth, and we are called to reflect that light, shining in a world that so desperately needs it. Remember, don't just look at the outside, look at the fruit, and let that be your guide as you navigate a world filled with both truth and deception. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What is the fruit you're looking for in the people you follow? Share with me in the comments, and let's continue this conversation together. Treasures in heaven, where is your heart? In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus speaks some words that challenge everything we think we know about success and fulfillment. He says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven." Now, how often do we measure success by what we have? In a world that teaches us that the bigger house, the fancier car, or the latest tech gadget defines our worth, Jesus flips this notion upside down and offers a radically different perspective. Jesus isn't just warning us against greed. He's urging us to redefine what truly matters in life. The treasures of this world, wealth, status, material possessions, they all fade. We've all experienced it, haven't we? You get that new gadget, that promotion, or that house you've dreamed of, and the initial joy is immense. But what happens after a few months? The excitement fades, and you find yourself searching for something else to fill the void. Why is that? Think about it. We're constantly told to pursue the next thing. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, the world tells us that our worth is found in what we own or achieve. But Jesus is telling us, you are more than what you have. Your true value doesn't come from the things you can hold in your hands. It comes from the treasures that cannot be touched by time, age, or decay. So, what are these treasures in heaven? Let me ask you this. Where is your heart? Are you pouring your energy into things that fade away, or are you investing in things that will last for eternity? Jesus calls us to focus on eternal rewards, acts of kindness, serving others, loving without expecting anything in return. These things don't just make a difference in the moment, they change lives. Have you ever experienced the lasting joy that comes from serving others? Perhaps you've given your time to someone in need or helped a friend through a difficult time. There's a joy that comes with these acts that no amount of money or material gain can replicate. These are the treasures that truly satisfy. Not the fleeting thrill of a new possession, but the deep, lasting fulfillment that comes from living with integrity, kindness, and love. Think about someone like Bill Gates, who has used his wealth to fund global health initiatives, or Oprah Winfrey, who has built her empire on sharing wisdom and empowering others. Yes, they have material wealth, but their impact on people's lives, on the world, is what truly makes them rich. Their legacy isn't just about the things they own, but about the lives they've touched. This is the kind of treasure Jesus is talking about. Now here's the question. What treasures are you storing up? Are they the temporary things that the world tells you will bring happiness, or are you investing in the eternal things? Faith, love, kindness, and service. Imagine how different our world would be if we all made the choice to invest in things that last. Imagine if we stopped measuring our worth by our bank accounts and started measuring it by the lives we touch and the good we do in the world. Lesson. Earthly treasures are fleeting, they won't last forever. But heavenly treasures, those treasures that come from living with love, integrity, and kindness, are eternal. So where is your heart? Are you storing up treasures that will fade away, or are you building a legacy that will stand the test of time? I'd love to hear from you. What is one thing you can do today to start storing up treasures in heaven? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's encourage each other to invest in what truly matters. The call to live without worry. In the Sermon on the Mount, we encounter one of Jesus' most comforting and liberating teachings. Do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink. Seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on these words. Do not worry. In a world where anxiety, stress, and the fear of the unknown are at an all-time high, these words might seem almost impossible to live by. But Jesus doesn't just offer us a suggestion. He extends an invitation to freedom. How many times have you been consumed by worry? Think back to a moment in your life when the weight of uncertainty, bills, or unanswered questions about the future kept you up at night. Maybe it was a job decision, a family issue, or health concerns. You might have tossed and turned, wondering what you could do to solve it all. And yet, what changed by stressing? The answer is often nothing. But here's the question that Jesus poses to us. What if the solution isn't in worrying? What if we could simply trust God with our needs and focus on living in the present, trusting that he knows exactly what we need? This teaching is countercultural. Today we are taught to plan, to control, and to worry. Our society thrives on hustle, and anxiety has become a normal part of life. We worry about our careers, relationships, future stability, and even our social media image. But Jesus calls us to something radically different. He invites us to step out of the storm of worry and into a place of peace, trusting that God, our provider, knows what we need before we even ask. Let me ask you this. How often have you allowed worry to steal your peace, only to realize later that it didn't change the outcome? Jesus isn't telling us to ignore our responsibilities or to live recklessly. He's inviting us to reframe our approach to life. Instead of obsessing over what we don't have, focus on seeking God's kingdom first. What does that mean for you in your daily life? Consider someone like Elon Musk, who has launched multiple companies, including SpaceX and Tesla, all while facing enormous public pressure and challenges. Musk has spoken about the constant anxiety of entrepreneurship, yet he knows the importance of focusing on what truly matters: innovation, progress, and staying true to his vision. Can you imagine the worry he must face on a daily basis? But rather than being consumed by the weight of uncertainty, Musk channels his energy into making an impact. He doesn't spend his days lost in worry, but remains focused on his mission. This is the kind of mindset Jesus calls us to adopt, to trust in God's provision and to focus on our purpose, knowing he will take care of the rest. What about you? What are you worrying about right now? Maybe it's the unknown future or the overwhelming responsibilities that never seem to stop. What would it look like to let go of that worry today and trust that God will provide for you? Take a deep breath and reflect on this. Jesus' invitation isn't just to live without worry, but to trust him with your life, knowing that your priorities and needs are already in his hands. Lesson: worry doesn't add to our lives, it only takes away. Instead, focus on seeking God's kingdom first and trust him with your needs and priorities. The rest will follow. So here's the challenge for you. What step can you take today to release your worry and trust more fully in God's provision? Let me know in the comments below. Let's start a conversation. How can we support each other in letting go of worry and living fully in God's peace? Building your life on the rock, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus ends his profound teaching with a powerful parable that holds the key to a life of strength and stability. He says, "Everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock." He then contrasts this with the man who built his house on the sand. When the storms came, the house on the rock stood firm, but the house on the sand collapsed. Let me ask you, what is the foundation of your life? What are you building your future on? Is it the unshakable truth of God's word, Or are you building on the shifting sands of temporary success, fleeting pleasures, and worldly achievements? In our culture today, we are constantly told that success equals money, status, and influence. Just think of the constant pressure to climb the corporate ladder, acquire more possessions, and chase after ever-elusive happiness. These are the sands, the temporary promises that the world offers. And yet, just as a house built on sand is vulnerable to the storm, so too is a life built on the pursuit of worldly things. Consider this for a moment. How often do we build our lives on things that don't last? We work hard for that next promotion, that shiny new car, or the approval of others. But when the storms of life hit, whether that's the loss of a job, a relationship crisis, or a sudden financial hardship, how do we stand? Do we have the strength to weather the storm, or do we collapse under the pressure? Think about someone like Jeff Bezos, who built Amazon from a small online bookstore into a global powerhouse. His story is one of incredible success, but even he has faced storms, criticism, competition, and challenges in the market. His achievements are impressive, but imagine if his foundation had been built solely on worldly success. What would have happened if he lost it all? Would his life still stand firm? But what if, instead of building our lives solely on success, we built on something more unshakable? What if, instead of chasing after fleeting pleasures, we built our lives on the rock, on the timeless and unchanging teachings of Jesus? What would your life look like if your foundation was rooted in God's Word? Here's a question for you. When the storms of life come, and they will come, will your foundation hold strong? Are you grounded in the solid rock of truth, or are you relying on the sand that shifts with every new trend, every new desire? The key is this: Jesus' teachings are the rock. When we build our lives on His words, on the principles of love, forgiveness, humility, and faith, we create a foundation that will withstand anything that comes our way. But it's not just about hearing His words, it's about putting them into practice. What does that look like for you today? Maybe it means prioritizing kindness over success, or peace over status. Maybe it means choosing honesty over convenience, or forgiveness over bitterness. Let me ask you, how can you start building your life on the rock today? What changes can you make to ensure your foundation is rooted in something eternal? Reflect on that, and let's talk about it in the comments. How have you seen the impact of building your life on God's Word in your own journey? Lesson: building your life on Jesus' teachings will ensure it stands firm through life's storms. The winds will blow, the rains will fall, but your house will stand strong when it's built on the rock. Now think about it. What's the storm in your life right now? How are you building on the foundation of God's Word? Take a moment to reflect and let us know how you plan to make sure your life stands firm through the challenges ahead. Because the storms will come, but with Jesus, we can stand firm. The choice is yours. Will you walk the narrow path, or will you continue down the wide road? As we come to the end of the Sermon on the Mount, we are left with a powerful question that challenges us all. Will we embrace the values of God's kingdom, humility, love, and obedience, or will we remain on the road that leads to destruction? Jesus calls us to follow a path less traveled, a road that asks us to love our enemies, serve selflessly, and trust in God's provision above all else. But let me ask you, what kind of life are you building? Is it one built on the rock of God's Word, or is it built on shifting sands that can't withstand the storms of life? This sermon isn't just a beautiful collection of wise teachings. It's a radical call to transformation, a call to live differently. Jesus isn't asking for perfect obedience. He's inviting us to a life that reflects His love, His grace, and His truth. So how can you live out these teachings today? What will your life look like if you choose to walk the narrow path? If this message has spoken to your heart, take a moment to reflect. Think about how you can start living these teachings right now. And if you feel compelled to go deeper in your journey of faith, we've prepared an ebook version of this message, available through the link in the description. Don't let this moment pass you by. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Like and subscribe for more content from God's Word to me. Remember, God's kingdom isn't just a future hope. It's here now, and it's ready to change the world through you. Stay blessed, and let's continue to walk this journey together.